it's a thing, right? Mistakes is a thing. Of course, now this room is all about what if, and I say, human nature is always a negative what if. What if it goes wrong? What if I embarrass myself? What if I fail? But for making a mistake, I guess I'm on a mission to change people's minds, to get them to think more like on the other side. What if it goes right? What if I amaze the world? What if I create a solution the world needs? That's what this room's based on. Of course, my friend Lolette and I started this room a long time ago, many years ago. Lolette is an entrepreneur coach. So, I guess, she got busy teaching entrepreneurs in her retreats, her retreat in Jamaica. And I love the topic so much. I think it's so important, the things that we cover. And I guess the ability to think ourselves to success, the ability to do the right things for success. That's what this room is really about. Mike, you get the idea. Fail fast. Yeah, I agree. Fail fast, and failure is a chance to learn. But look. All said and done, we know we can learn from failure, right? But it's not as easy as it sounds. And I guess even for people who handle failure and mistakes well, I think this is really about embracing imperfection and finding that opportunity in adversity, Michael. I think it's, we think we can do it easily, but there's many reasons why we don't do learn from failure. Learn from mistakes. Again, let me separate the two now, because if I'm going to use the words interchangeably, they're not the same thing, right? A mistake is a particular thing. A mistake is, as you will find out, when we have an expectation. If I do this, that's going to happen. And then when it doesn't happen, we think, oh, something's gone wrong. And then we have to look into it and think, what do I need to learn? That's a mistake, right? A mistake involves several things, like you said. It involves expectation. It involves taking responsibility and saying, whatever goes wrong, when what I expect to happen is my fault. That's at the heart of mistakes. Whereas failure is when we think, oh, it's all gone wrong. I can never do it. I'm a failure. And I can't get this right. I've gone wrong. That's it. I'm done. Right? And there's patterns. Failure tends to lead to, I guess, feeling down on ourselves, and then usually we run away. We don't do that thing again. We're scared, right? Whereas mistakes, again, I think many of us, often we miss the chance to learn. It's not that we don't know we have to learn. We miss the chance because we don't take that responsibility part. We blame someone else. Why did my customer pay me? It's my fault. No, it's their fault. They should have paid me. Yeah. And they will leave it at that. I hate that customer. No, that's not how it works, right? We seem to have this thing in business where we don't want to make mistakes. It's like a taboo. Don't make a mistake, Annie. If you make a mistake, what will they think of you? Avoid mistakes, right? And when mistakes happen, hide it. Don't let anyone know. Never tell them you made a mistake. Look, I get it. I get it. My phone's talking to me. The phone doesn't listen to you unless you press a button. It's talking to me over there. Don't ask my question. Anyway, look, I think going back to, in business, we are so focused on success, winning, success, looking good, that we are, we have this aversion to risk. We have this aversion to being brave, being courageous, and doing something different, doing something new. See, all of that ties into today, because I think if we're not willing to make mistakes, we don't grow. We're not willing to make mistakes. We don't do anything different. We do the same old thing. Sometimes we wouldn't expect different results, aka insanity, right? You know, so, so you know, in business, we have this thing about burying anything that's bad news. Now, look, as a marketer, I guess I take part of the blame, right? You know, I know that as a business, we want to sell. You know, my clients don't come to me and say, "Any, you know, do some posts about our failures." I wish they would, because that probably get more attention, more engagement. You know, than some of the silly posts you know, about the glories. Everything's glorious, everything's perfect. That's not how it works, and your clients know that. Your customers know that too, right? You know, but sales and marketing don't want to highlight mistakes. You know, we want to show ourselves and our clients as competent, good at what they do, successful, and always moving forward. That's not how it works, right? You know, we highlight wins, we highlight growth, we highlight competitive advantage, how we've won, how we've done so well yet again. You know, and I guess we all want to have that polished look, but that is not how the world works, my friends. You know, learning from our mistakes, because we make mistakes every day, pretty much, right? Most of us make mistakes every day. You know, that's a mistake. That's what you expected and what really happened. When they're misaligned, is a mistake. How do we fix it? That's our conversation today. Okay, that's my introduction. My friends, talk to me.
Annie,
Yes,
can we talk about, for some, the origin of the fear of making mistakes?
of
There
course.
are some who've grown up or been raised with the fear of making mistakes, the fear of failing exam to begin with. Begins with education. The funny thing is, begins with education. You know, it's that fear where, oh my goodness, you must be excellent at everything. You must pass all your exams, and institutions do that too. So, for example, if you, I'll use myself as an example. Actually, I remember growing up, I was always the first in class, and that was equally echoed by, you know, my grandparents, my parents, everybody around you. The expectation is that you are that bright, intelligent person, and also being the first child as well. You're the training wheel for everybody else that comes along, that comes after you. So that expectation is high, and you have to meet those, and you cannot. Sorry, my phone is going again. You cannot even think about failure. Wasn't an option. Like, not passing your exam was not an option. You know, you had to pass the exam. You had to be the person that everybody looked to do that. And so when you don't pass one exam, for example, institutions, you could be held behind if that exam is a mandatory exam for you to pass, to go on to the next stage, and then that doesn't happen. It hits you like a ton of bricks, right? So we have to remember, for some, the idea of failure was not an option to begin with. So we take that mentality, we walk into adulthood, and when failure happens, it becomes even more devastating. I'm just laying the foundations here, because for some people, they've never known anything. They've never known anything but success, and so when failure happens, it becomes, you know, an issue. It becomes um, a nightmare for some.
I,
So
I, I totally agree with you. You know, we learn somewhere. You know, of
yes,
course, some of it is childhood. You know, there's many. I'm sure there's many other reasons or places where we learn that we must not fail. You know, and
yes. But I do
you know,
believe in fail fast. If you're going to fail
yes, yeah,
fast, and get to quickly get your strategy and your resources in place to help you to move forward. But failing is a good thing, because you get to understand yourself, you get to understand the process, you get to understand, and you get to grow. You get to
yes,
grow. And sometimes what failure does is, it presents us with another opportunity that we may have not considered in the process of failing.
yes. And again, I think there's that gap between when we're kids and when we become adults, where this fear of failure, fear of mistakes becomes devastating, truly devastating. You know, so that's why I'm sort of keen to talk about it and see how we can move forward. You know, look, I'm human like everyone else. I fail every day, like I say, right? And you know, I guess I'm learning to do better at handling mistakes. Now, when you do what I do, whether it's posts, whether it's people's books, you know, it can. I mean, when someone says, "I don't like that," it can really hurt. Really hurt. Devastating is the word you use, Christiana, and I agree with you. That's the word for it, right? It can be really devastating. But I think we're being unreasonable with, to ourselves. That in the world we live in, as Mike says, life happens for us, not to us. Failure doesn't happen to us. We don't fail. As you say, Christiana, there's a reason why this hasn't gone the way we wanted. We have to be methodical and systematic in how we look at this, and how we do what Mike says, which is it's a chance to learn. But how do we turn the wheels round? That's what we're going to try to address today, my friends. Because we have to turn this machine around, this thinking in our head, because it's in our head primarily. The world doesn't see it the way we think the world does, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world is not waiting for us to get it wrong. But when people think of what people do, Christiana. Think what people do. As soon as someone says, "I don't like that," we're like, "Oh, I'm hurt. How could you? How could you say that?" No, and then, "Oh no, I feel insulted." And then suddenly we got a whole drama in our head, and the other person, they're minding their own business. They're getting with their lives, right?
Yes.
But we have. It's a problem we have. I think we can deal with it. If we just say, when you do books like me, when someone comes to me and says, "I don't like it. I didn't want it that way," I'm like, There was a time when I used to have a breakdown. Literally, I have a breakdown. I'd be like, "Oh, I've got it wrong again. I always get it wrong. And I just can't do this properly." Then I've got a coach that I do reference quite a lot, Donna Martin. The last time I did this, she was like, "Stop, just stop." I'm like, "Okay, what?" Like, what's gone wrong?
Drama king.
What's gone wrong? I'm like, I don't know. But of course I know. They had a conversation, and you know what? My mistake became evident. That's why I'm saying many times we don't even realize we made a mistake because we do what we do the way we do and the way we've always done. As Christiana says, as kids, also a time ago, or even last time, it might have worked, but this time it didn't. Right? It doesn't mean that we always make mistakes. It just means that it didn't work this time, and then we ask ourselves, what can we learn? That's a real quest. Selena, how you doing? You're last on stage, so I'm kind of keen that we hear from you. So I haven't forgotten you, Selena. Are you there? You're muted. Selena, okay, I can't hear you yet. Okay, all right. Joni, Tobiloba, and Mr. Launchpreneur.
Yeah. Wait, okay, now I need to pronounce the name correctly. All right.
Which one?
We're gonna go Toby. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
Yeah, no,
inside.
he'll take Toby. I'm sure.
Okay.
Tobiloba.
I guest hosted just like as a fill-in on a podcast yesterday, and they were talking about what is one trait that you feel like sometimes can hold you back. And so my answer really is I've always been a risk taker. Always. Like since I've been a kid. Like I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make the travel team. Yeah, I'm gonna make state select. Like, and I failed a couple of times, but some reason inside me, like it did not affect me like how Christiana was saying. I'm like, I can start my own business. I can do it. And slow to start, but worked and then didn't work. And then you kind of figure it out. But I also, as I believe Michael was saying, like a lifelong learner, I think that's so special for humans when they get to that point to just like just try because like that's so special to your development and to how other people may view you, and the other people you attract, they're more like you. And so it's not so stagnant, because I think being in a stagnant life that's pretty rough. You know, I know a lot of people in my life who are in really stagnant marriages, and they love their partner, but it's just like ho hum, you know. And so that's something that they can figure out themselves. But I just want my life to continue growing, and I have felt that way since I've been able to walk, you know. So I just like to remember my mom telling me, like, when I was a little kid and little baby, actually, like in the high chair, being like, Mo, just give me Mo. Got more cereal, got more. And that's always, I've always just wanted more out of life. And if you feel scared or anything, that's totally okay. Like, that's fine. That's normal. But just know that there's a lot of wonderfulness that comes with taking chances. And I'm like the living legend of taking chances. Okay.
I love that, Joni. You know,
Totally.
this is the heart of the conversation today, really, right? You know, there is a cost to being scared to make mistakes. There's a cost to being scared to do new things, but that's part of the cost, right? If you're scared to make mistakes, you don't try new things, you don't do new things, you don't take opportunities, because it might go wrong. What if it goes wrong? What if it goes pear-shaped? What if I fail? What if I lose all my money, all my customers? And I say, so Joni, I agree with you, but I think that there is, you know, you are remarkable for being that person who can just brush it off and carry on. Most people will get stuck. You know, again, I know where Christiana is coming from, and so Global will understand as well. You know, when you grow up,
Christiana should be able to, because part of
she
why
she can. No, we
part
have
of
to learn.
why you can brush it off is because, like, you've gone through bad shit. It's like, oh, sorry.
No, they'll survive. They'll survive.
But like, that is what gives you this like protective shield that you're just like, okay, I dealt with something bad, and now I just don't care like what people think of me. Like, I have been divorced. I have been through sexual abuse, and I'm like, oh, I can do anything. Like, God has actually rained down on me, and I am here and strong and happy. So everyone else can do it too.
No, like I said, that's a remarkable perspective, and thank goodness you have that perspective. You know, I wish, I pray, I hope, and I work towards all of us having that same attitude, Joni, really. And so going back to the Nigeria education system, for example, right? You know, I remember when I was a kid, I think I was probably 12, and there was someone in my class who was in primary school. He was 22. 22. Don't pass, you don't go ahead, you don't go on. You don't pass your exams, you don't go to next year above. That's a real cost. The Nigerians know, and so, and you know, I'm sure it happens in many other countries too. So, you know, failure in that sense has huge ramifications. You know, look, and I say when I grew up, I realized that this young man had learning difficulties. That's why he couldn't pass the exam. It wasn't stupid. Yeah, you know what I mean? You know, it was just that way. You know, it's the way that the system was. You know, but sometimes in business, if you make a mistake, you know, you can get sacked, right? You know, you make a mistake in life, you get imprisoned. You know, look, the cost sometimes can be serious. Of course, it can. You know, but I think as Joan is alluding to, most of the time things are not this bad. They're not that serious. They're not that. You know, they're not life and death. Those days are gone, right? You know, life is, you know, we do things, we learn, we move on. As Mike says, you know, I'm a lifelong learner. Failure is not only an option, you know, character builder. Fail forward. You know, fail and do it quick if you can. But fail we will.
Hey,
Guaranteed.
Annie, I have a story. Okay.
Yeah, do it quick, then I can just.
I'll just give a really quick story before you share your video. Okay. So I'm driving up to Michigan to see my kids, and they're with my parents. And I bought a new car, a Mini Cooper, and I wanted to see how fast it would go. And it was like just straight line, like no cars. And I was doing 110. It was like fantastic. Yeah, I love to drive fast. And of course, then I see this stupid trooper like on the side of the road, and I immediately pulled over, and I'm like, geez, okay. And he saw the temp plates on my car. And he was like, oh, when did you get this car, man? I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I showed him like 4 days ago. He was like, why were you going so fast? He's like, that's reckless driving. It's like, well, I saw an empty stretch of road. And honestly, I just wanted to see how fast this car would go. And like, he was like, all right, I could take you to jail for reckless driving, but you told the truth. And I actually like that you took the risk there. This is state trooper saying, I like you took the risk. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he still gave me a little ticket. It wasn't not much, but that's my personality. Like I don't try to be risky, like around, obviously kids or friends, whatever. But that was like, I just said, hey, I wanted to see how fast this car would go. All right. I got it 4 days ago. And it worked.
Yeah, no, it worked. I think, again, there's a lesson there somewhere, my friends. I think, the first thing we have to be in this conversation is honest with ourselves. So I was thinking earlier, I aim to do my best every time I do something. Otherwise, I'm not being honest with myself, number one. And number two, when something goes wrong, when the expectations I have don't materialize, I can make excuses. Oh, I didn't really try hard. Oh, well, it doesn't really matter because I think we have to be honest with ourselves and with others by giving our best, and then that's the only place we learn from. You can't learn if you do half-heartedly, right? Selena, you're back. How are you doing? I'm sure it sounds like you're cooking.
I'm cooking. You're right.
How are you doing? Oh no, we lost Selena that quick. Oh, device unconnected. Tabulovi, you see the problem with this, right? Okay, nice. You're back again, Selena. We lost you for a second. I'll come back to you, Cristiano. So, Selena, you're looking good. You're cooking. What are you cooking? I'm always hungry, right?
Sweet potatoes and salmon and some spinach.
It's good, but I'm not coming to Birmingham for that.
I'd come for that. All right.
Add cinnamon to the sweet potatoes.
Zimbabwe food now. I might get in my car and drive 6 hours. Just come and collect, takeaway.
There is no meat on the table. Sorry.
I'll stay where I am, thanks. There's so many KFCs on the way, so I'm not coming.
That is so not right. Someone's offering you good food and you're turning it down because there's no meat. How dare you?
She knows that's what she said. There's no meat. She knows I'm not going to turn up with no meat.
Meat.
Bring your meat with you.
No.
You can bring me some.
Christiana, you're in a sassy mood.
You can bring me some vegetarian. No worries.
I wasn't invited, Christian. I wasn't invited, Selena. No. Okay. All right. I'll cope.
Joey was saying to you, you should be on the rally, not on the road.
No, but then if you tell me you're coming, it's not that I don't cook. I've got some meat in my fridge. I cook for my visitors, but I don't eat it.
Okay. That's what I remember that from your book. How you beat cancer book. So my bad. See, that's a mistake right there, right? And I put my hands up straight away and say, "Yeah, I can learn something." Remember what you read in your books, Annie.
I saw somebody yesterday. This guy is big at the waist. He has some, I don't know what you call it, some double things on the side of the tummy. And so I saw some. I mean, he drove me because he's a mechanic. I left my car at his garage, so he drove me home. So we saw this guy, another guy with a tummy which is pointed, but nothing on the side. So I said, "What's the difference between you and him?" Then he says, "Oh, that's for beer." And as I said, "What about you?" Then he says, "Oh, that's for food." So it's like he's a food lover. Okay, hear this. He went into a shop and he bought some, juice. He bought some, what do you call that, with Fanta, those things with, I don't know what you call it. I don't take it. So he said, "Oh, do you want a drink?" And I said, "No." Then I had my grandson with me. "What about your grandson?" I said, "Oh, anything for a kid." So he bought that, some things for my grandson. And he bought some for himself. And I mean, okay, yes, he had bought a fizzy drink. And I said, "Why are you drinking that? Why are you having fizzy drink?" "Oh, just because I love it." Oh, but he had loads of bottles, empty bottles of water. "But as you see, I drink a lot of water." And I said, "But the fizz, why do you drink fizzy drinks?" "Oh, he didn't. Oh, because I love food." Baby food. Those are useless things. Why are you eating? Just because he saw something which is edible, he wants to eat. And yet he is growing so big. And I mean, he can't control himself. I mean, I was pissed off.
That's
Sorry.
that's called cognitive dissonance, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to cure, but maybe if you throw those words at him and tell him that he needs to see a psychologist, he might rethink.
No, I really thought I will phone him and I say, "Do you eat for comfort?" Because I think he's a comfort eater. But what is happening to him? What's wrong with his? I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's why I say he needs to see a
You,
psychologist.
exactly. There could be many, many, many reasons why. He could be
Yeah.
carrying things that we may not know about for him to be in that
That's why people like
state of
that.
mind.
Yeah.
Oh, Christiana is there.
there's a
Yeah,
history
he should
there.
see Christiana.
There's a clear history there. That
Yeah,
perhaps, yeah.
look, I mentioned earlier on that sometimes we don't even know we're making a mistake. And then maybe we don't take responsibility for our actions.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would put
Maybe
that.
we
But
forget
there's
explain.
many
Do we
reasons.
are we even
Tabeloba,
ready or in a denial
Tabeloba.
state?
Yeah, I think many of us live in denial, Christian. As I really, when something happens, something doesn't go the way we want, we blame someone else instantly. We don't want to blame
Yeah,
ourselves.
true.
We don't want to look within. Say, but without that honesty, true honesty in the way we live, in the way we be, we can't learn from our mistakes. I mean, we can learn from some things, of course, but there's many things that we can learn from every day. I think but we need to be genuinely honest with ourselves before we can start that.
Annie, I agree with
Tabeloba,
you.
And that's why
As
I
a
say that any
psychologist,
I love you, but I don't love myself.
Yes.
You understand? That's why I say I love you, but
all right.
I don't love myself. And that's what that man is in. He's in that
It's
kind of condition.
but that's the reason why he needs to say psychologist, because not everybody is comfortable with holding the mirror so close to their own faces, right?
mm,
And
mm,
therefore that denial pattern is still going to be there until you get real help. And if is he even ready? Does he even see like that he needs help? You
no.
know. So
Clearly not. No, let's hear from Tabeloba then. I want to hear from everyone, and then we can have the conversation.
Guys,
So,
I'll just mute myself and I'll have my meal. Sorry.
yeah, enjoy. I'm hungry now. You're making me hungry. I'll survive. Tabeloba, talk to us.
Wonderful conversation so far. Honestly, wonderful conversation so far. And being a young boy, right, failure is part of the journey from what I've learned so far. You know, Thursday, I'm going to turn 25 on Thursday. So definitely, and then that Thursday is going to make it 11 years I'm alone. 11 years I've been doing things on my own. 11 years I've been on the streets trying to navigate life. all by myself, right? And a lot of failures were made as a teenager and evolving into adulthood and everything like that. When you made mention of in Nigeria, when you're unable to pass a particular course, definitely you're going to repeat. It's true, right? And I think there's something that we truly need to understand about that thing, that there's something it sends to our subconscious mind that failure is something that is not supposed to be happening in our life. But actually, it's part of the things that make us to be very strong. It's what will even make us to be strong. It's what makes us to see from other people's perspective, right? I recently just, based on the things or the kind of people I now interact with, I recently understood one thing, that another man's food is another man's poison, right? When Selena was talking about something, we need to understand that the way you behave, as it's good to you, it may be nice to you, it may be okay to other people around you, and it may be annoying to some other people, and it may not be fine to some other people. And that still doesn't mean that, like, if your opinion is on the contrary to what they are doing, that still doesn't mean that they are doing the wrong thing a long run. The fact that you don't like something, right? The fact that we do not like something doesn't make it wrong. The point is that we are in that, that mindset, like, okay, as long as I don't like this, we want everybody to not like what we don't like. We want them to hate what we hate. But that's one thing we need to understand as a business owner, as an individual, as a parent, as anybody who you may be or wherever you may find yourself, that what makes A to be happy may make B to be sad. And that still does not make it bad. So where am I driving at? That failure is part of the journey, right? Failure is part of the journey. And the earlier we're able to embrace this, the earlier we're able to understand this perspective, that failure is one of the things that shape us into who we are, or who to we truly needs to become. We will learn how to learn from our failure. What does it take to learn from your mistakes to achieve your bold idea? Yes. 2 years ago, any knows, like 2 years ago, like a year ago, we were here online. We were here on audio room. Audio room was the good thing. I was doing audio room for businesses. We were even making money right on the audio room without going to people's DDM. I was selling other people's ebook. I was selling their books right on the live session. Any can testify to this, that we used to do that audio room very well. And they just stop it. They stop this thing. I was like, wow, what's the next thing to be done? A month, 2 months, I was still thinking about it. That what's going on. Now, what I did not realize when this thing was going on is that this is not our platform. It's not a platform we create. We can't do anything we want about it. That's what LinkedIn was saying to us. That's what LinkedIn was making us to understand. Like, we cannot do what we want. We cannot do what we like on this LinkedIn. We can choose to make something happen, and we can choose to make this not to happen. All right. And that's one thing on the other hand, because if LinkedIn Audium has continued through that, maybe LinkedIn will have grown more than this as well. It's a part of one mistake. Like, okay, if I'm doing something that is making people to come to my platform to do this thing, to listen, to hear from me, to listen to me, definitely let me continue to do this. That's one mistake. And then I've learned from is that, okay, when we are doing something like, there should be a reserve. There should be something else that is going to be okay for me. Like, okay, I'm in charge. I'm in control of these things. I can make sure that this is how it's going to be. I can make it go to the Y side. I can make it to go to the X side. So I want us to understand one thing, that failure is not as bad as it sounds. It's not as bad as it sounds. It's what shapes us to who we truly are. It's what shapes us. And do you know that some of the things we fail at, some of the mistakes we make, it's for other people to learn from. But I notice that we find it so difficult to learn from our mistakes. We find it so difficult to share our struggles with others. We find it so difficult to let people know that this is the things I've done wrong in the past. These are the things I didn't do right. These are the things that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. We find it so difficult to let other people know because we want people to see us as like, hey, we are almighty Toby Lover. He's doing well, he's doing amazing, he's doing so wonderful, and all of those things. That's what we want people to see, not what is happening in the background. Things that we don't like, things that we did that is wrong and we know is wrong, but then we tend to not talk about it because we feel like, what is the world going to say? But that's what really makes us better. That's what truly makes us better. If we can learn to talk about our failure, we can learn to leverage on our failure. I think most of us would have been greater than this, would have been better than this, if only we choose to learn from our failures. If only we choose to see our failure as one of the energy, one of the criteria we need in order to get to the next level that we need to get to. So it's not also bad. Now, come to think of it, whenever you fail, you think about it so much. You begin to think about it, begin to think about it, begin to think about it. And before you know it, you even forget some other things you're supposed to do. You even forget some other stuff that you're supposed to do. You even forget things that are much more important. So dwelling on it at times, most times, not even at times, most times, always end you up. Like it's basically stage you on the other side. It makes you be in the same place. You know, being a believer, being a Christian, when we commit sin, we just dwell on it. Even when God has already told us that when you sin and you ask for forgiveness, move on. You've sinned and it's a mistake and I've forgiven you. We still tend to sit on it and feel like, okay, I've done this thing wrong. Even when God has forgiven us, even when we are forgiven. And we need to look for people like, come and judge me. You tell people like, this is what I did wrong. This is what is going on. This, and we dwell on those things without knowing or unknowingly there's consequences for all those stuff. And we need to understand that the moment we are able to learn to live with our mistakes, our failures, we are already set another journey for ourselves to get to a greater place, to get to a better place we need to get to. So I'm going to use the mic by telling us that failure is part of the journey and everybody is going to fail. As a matter of fact, I'm afraid of the people that never failed. People that don't have scars, I don't listen to people that don't have scars. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Annie.
Awesome.
Yes.
Where is Annie? Love that.
Sorry.
That is amazing.
Thank you so much, Tabiloba. Christiana, I agree. Tabiloba is a genius. My screen froze. I got kicked out of my room and I fell off the stage. I had to restart, and I came back and Tabiloba is still sharing his genius, right? Look, everything you say, my friend, I agree with you on that one. I agree with you, right? There's important words you say in there, which I think I want to sort of emphasize. You mentioned that this is something in our subconscious. It's something that we truly believe, something that we have been conditioned to come to believe and understand how the world works. We need to change that belief, that view. We need to be more like Joni. If it happens, brush it off and go. Go on, Christiana.
There's a stigma attached to failure. Let's not forget that. And the reason why you made a point, the point you made was people don't talk about it. We want to kind of appear like everything is okay and fine. But there is a stigma and people are fear of the judgment. And so the stigma means that people are not open and honest about what's really going on behind the scenes. The reason why, Instagram is ridiculed with people looking awesome, beautiful, polished, images, and I made 100,000 in 2 seconds, and so on and so forth. It's because
people that on LinkedIn as well.
People are
that's social media for you, my friends.
They started that on LinkedIn. I feel like, okay, everybody's now winning. Nobody's failing.
Yeah.
Everybody's not.
Plenty of people are not. Plenty of people are not feeling. They're not winning, but they're not feeling. Plenty people are not feeling. They're just like in their own heads. And
You know,
that's true. And
there-
so
there- there- there's a realization, my friends. You know, I said this to my good friends. Many of our friends on LinkedIn are lonely and sad. They really are. When they come to the world, they look as if they're glorious, as if they're winners.
Like
Everything's great.
they just talk
It's
about
not
the
true.
good side. I was like,
Right?
no, am I the only one going through what is going on in my life?
No,
Don't I have
no.
problems going on? This thing failed. I'm unable to put food on my table today. How is this
Mm,
person doing it? How is this people able to do this? How I failed in this. I was not supposed to say what I said yesterday. I failed. I lose a client yesterday. I did this. This happened. Is this not happening to people? And
yeah,
I'm a believer. When I read my Bible that says that there is no Jew, there is no Greek, and there's no white and there's no black. The God is rich unto them that call him. He's rich unto her. Meaning that every situation going on in life, right? Everybody is being a partaker of it. Goodness, everybody cannot, you cannot experience goodness throughout the whole year. It's going to be a calamity that's going to come. But I don't care what you tell me. I don't know what you are going to tell me. I don't know how your dream is. I don't know where you come from. I don't know how rich your parents are. I don't know how wonderful your family is. But there's going to be a problem one way or the other. Whether we ask for it or we don't ask for it, there will be a problem. And I think the moment we're able to talk about that, you even ease some ease. Thank God I was able to talk about it the last time I was in Abuja, Nigeria, with someone. So like, wow, you go through this thing. The person was able to help. If any can see, I'm not in a new apartment, right? This is not where I
mm,
used to be. I changed my location, right? And is this thing, my growth come to being very open to people, like let them understand. Yes, I'm good at what I do. I'm a very good copywriter. Like I know I'm good at it. But sir, ma, there could be problem. There could be issues. I can go
always,
through.
always,
There
Toby,
always.
could be.
Toby,
So
I'm sorry. I know I'm calling you Toby. I'm sorry.
No, you know, it doesn't mind being called Toby, so Toby Lobo, you know, we like shortened names, right?
Joe. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, so my boss, one of my bigger jobs, he's SVP of the company. I now, he was beaten by his stepfather so bad. His mother was an alcoholic, and he slept behind 7-Eleven for like, I don't know, at least a week before he got a truck. And he somehow went through community college and worked his way up to be an electrical engineer. And he's SVP of a very big company. And I mean, it can be done. It's hard, but
Mm,
it's not just you. It's not you. We all have this stupid stuff behind us. And I am really proud to have heard your share.
yeah, no, look, no, again, there's many things as I would say. Let me welcome some people. Now, Christiana with an H, welcome, glad you're here. People put all sorts of on social media. I don't even look at it, Christiana. I don't never mind get carried away. I just don't look, you know. If I
by the
don't mind,
way, that's me there. Christiana is one of my mommy that I talk to on
really,
LinkedIn, right?
I
We
welcome,
talk very
welcome.
well, and then one of the people I really don't fake anything. At my age, what should I fake, right? What
Mm,
should I fake at my age? I have not failed. I have not failed. You people have. You've done it. You have children. Any has
mm,
children. You have a wife. I don't have. I don't have children. You have not make any mistake. I've not married wrongly. So there's nothing to hide yet. There is
mm,
nothing to hide. I understand why people hide what they are hiding. Why?
mm.
Because of judgment, right? People are going to judge me. They'll be like, why this thing happened? Why this thing is going on? Sometimes the only way we can get peace and have ease is when we're able to talk about those mistakes, those
Yeah,
struggles.
yeah,
Most
yeah.
times when you share your struggles with people, when you share it, like they may not have solution, but you see those things, it's gonna be all right, it's gonna be
Mm,
fine. My friend in the States understand that when I have them in numbers, and when I talk to them, they feel like, okay, this is it. So everybody is lonely. I mean, this house all alone. Should I not be lying and be like, I'm not lonely? I don't need people. Everybody needs somebody, right, to lean on. Everybody need a good partner. You need a good wife. You need a husband. You need caring children, right, to look after you, right. No matter how wealthy you may be, no matter how impressive your life may be, good looking. I don't care how well things is going on with you.
Hmm.
There will be a
Yeah.
problem.
No, look for
There's
now
going to
for
be a
sure. You see, I watched a video today, and I think the point was his point was simply many of us have a nail in our head, proverbial nail. Now, it's obvious, it's there, right? But we ignore it and say, "Oh no, my problem is all that."
Sounds
You know,
painful.
we need to deal with that nail. There's no point wearing a helmet to protect the nail in our head. Take the nail out before you can move forward. So below, but that's the way life really works, right? I think we need to be honest with ourselves. That's what this comes down to. Let me welcome my sister Annie. How you doing, Annie? Feels like a long time, but it hasn't really. Thank you for joining us. So I love Natalie's comments. We're good at seeing failure in others, but it's our perception, as you say, Natalie. So we're just projecting our thoughts and beliefs onto others. For now, we want to be the people who don't feel like failures. We know what Tabalova is saying, which is that we learn. Our failures make us. My pain is my gain. All that, that's not just talking. That means something, right? Let's be rather than thinking about other people's failures or seeing them as they're just geniuses. They never fail. Neither is true. And neither really matters. At the heart of this is look within yourself. Let's look within ourselves, because our sense of failure, our fear of mistakes, is within us. It's not anywhere else, right? Shuba, I see you as well. How you doing, my good friend? It's been a while, Shuba. You haven't been with us for a long, long time. I'm so glad you're back. Thank you so much for being here. So for all my friends here, I'd love to hear your thoughts on our topics, of course, as time goes by, right? Don't be shy. Do come and share. Join the studio. You can have your camera off. I know you're not shy, Peter. Peter, Mr. Popeye himself. He's my hero,
I
really.
want to hear, Eddie, what is everyone's, what they perceive as their biggest mistake? And how what was your biggest mistake, bro?
Time. That's why which one do you want to share is a question, really. So let me offer.
It doesn't have to be big. Just what was a mistake that you felt like you learned something from?
Let me offer it to Michael and Cyrus, because they've been on stage longest, and I will go to Mike. Then I'll go to Mike. Cyrus, Michael, who wants to speak? What's your biggest mistake?
Let's Calm speak first, please.
Mr. Calm,
speak first. Go on.
Mr. Calm, the mic is yours. What's your biggest mistake? Make sure they can't arrest you for it, and make sure they can't. You don't lose everything.
Well, I have got one of those, but we're not going to talk about that.
No, hold on. I think we all do. Look, I'm not going to hide it from you. I grew up in the state. I grew up in the state.
I'm going to go. I'm going to keep my promise to a person that I made, and say that I'm not going to talk about it, because they did ask me.
Don't talk about that one.
They begged me not to do that.
Talk about
So
something else. Talk about something else.
All right. There was a kid that had. Everybody has 10 fingers, right? This kid had 12. One of the fingers was like an appendage, or on both arms, appeared on both sides, and it was like an extra thumb or something. I don't know what it was. It was just weird. So he had 5, and then on each hand he had six fingers. And I used to make fun about him a lot. I used to think that was weird. He lived in the same building that I lived in, It was an apartment complex. I was on the top floor, the 10th floor. He was on the 6th or 5th, one of the lower floors. So I probably had some sort of hierarchy complex as a kid, thinking that, hey, I'm above this guy. And on top of that, he's Ethiopian, so who cares? I'm a diplomat's son. But, and then on top of that, those fingers, they're just so weird. What the heck? Even though we'd play tag, run up and down, we were kids. We only had each other and my sisters and my on the other people there. But still, we'd play with this guy. But still, I'd have that angst about those hands. And every once in a while, I'll tease him. And I got a water gun the other day that I was bought. Now we got into the house and we were playing with it, and I went outside, and the target practice was him going up, running up and down the stairs, shooting the water gun at him, and then running away, shooting him again, running away. Of course, that was not very nice. But there I was bullying someone who I thought was less than me. That I ended up telling my wife about that. Former wife, ex. And she said that if you had told me that story in the beginning, I would have never married you. So you can imagine that really brought it into perspective for me. It's the kind of thing that could break marriages. It's the kind of thing that can devastate the relationship between you and the other person, your past life. What I can call my burden right now. So there you are. That's my failure in recognizing, a failure to recognize humanity.
I suppose so the next question then comes from Mr. Calm. What do you know? I imagine there's many things you learned from that experience, right? Many things.
Yeah. And there's something that I was reminded about by who's this? By is it Toby? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
by Toby. That our failures are like burdens. We stack them up and we carry them with us. And the more we stack them up over and over, if we go out there, we fail, we stack them up. It's failures. And we become experts at fixing other people's failures. But they're not us. They are not us.
Look,
We still got our failures in the bag, and
yes, I
we're
agree.
rucksacking them around. We
Yeah,
haven't dug inside ourselves to figure out. let's fix our failures. But here we are, we're burdening ourselves over and over, fixing other people's failures, and seeing how we're so focused on that. And I don't understand that right now. It's he put it
I,
in big blinker and highlight, saying, "What the heck
let
are we
me
doing?"
say this is human tendency, Michael. This is why we have to talk about these things to learn something together, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think the stacking, as you call it, to a little bit mentioned, literally is it's what we say to ourselves in our head, right? So it's our subconscious, and essentially what we're doing is called, I guess, normative framing. The stories we tell ourselves. That's how we carry around by telling ourselves, "Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I always get that wrong. Oh, I was, I'm not. I can't do that properly." And it's not true. And we have to change that way of thinking for sure, right? We have to reframe the way we see ourselves. Don't carry your baggage around. I love what Annie says in the comments. Annie says, "I own my mistakes. I admit them, learn from them, but won't repeat them. I won't lie either or judge others' life, and I'm not perfect, but my past doesn't define me to who I am today. I learn, I grow, I appreciate others. That's a long and short term. That's how we need to look at life and move forward. Mike, welcome, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well,
Do you want to make the
I
biggest note?
have something to say. It's about for my like now that you have let that out. I mean, you don't really think he was lesser than you, right? You're equals. You're both human. That's a real message in that. So you got to look at everyone like, they all have the same insides. They all have the same like feelings and struggles. And not the same, but yeah.
Yeah, no, look, the Michael I know today is not that person that was. That's the thing, right? I think like the Michael that we know today, we know Michael is he's a considerate person, and he has a heart, and he's as I said, he knows, he learned that that sort of behavior can kill a marriage.
Well, I do think that Mr. M is very reflective. He goes deep to figure
Yeah.
out a lot of solutions. So I respect him for telling that story. But the point of that story is that this kid, who cares if he lives on the 6th floor and you live on the 10th, and he had 6 fingers, you had 5? Like, oh well, you learned. You
We
live
live,
in.
yeah. No, he learned, Journey. He learned. That's the thing. Let's go to Mike, and I wonder what Mike is going to share with us. Whether he's going to share his biggest mistake or a big mistake, and somebody learning from there. Mike, I'll give you the mic. Mike, Mike, yay!
Greetings.
How are you?
My biggest mistake. There's so many. So hard to pick.
They forget, Mike. At our age, we've been there. We've seen it. We've done it, and we've done it badly at least once, right? So,
Well, I think, but if I had to pick one, I think it's mistaking that I can do things alone, and that we need the help. I believe of the transcendent. Um, and then beyond that, we need. So I look at life as sort of circles of relationship. So it's vertical first, then with family, then with friends, and then with society. And I think often, in my own strength or in my own power, uh, I would just struggle along. For instance, in business, I never really sought out a mentor. And I would encourage anyone that's in business today to seek a mentor out. I would also, as a younger man, I would seek an older man out for a mentor for life beyond business. So that I think that I see things very differently than I did a year ago. A year ago, if those of you that have heard my story, I had a quadruple bypass. That crystallized life for me to say, we don't know what tomorrow brings. So we should really be living in the present, bringing attention and intention to this very moment. That's what I learned.
so I'd say I love, I guess your honesty, because I think it makes what we do worthwhile from my perspective, right? We're all still learning, and I say I guess I learn every day. Many of my topics are the things I've learned. That's why I talk about them. And if you're wondering why I make a point of it, and if I read a book, I'm going to come and share with you what I learned, just so I can learn it better. Especially when it comes to applying what I've learned. We're all learning, and these events are a good way to share knowledge, and that's why I look at it, Mike. And I think it's a good thing that we will learn, right? Please go and add. What do you want to add, Mike?
Well, I was just gonna say, and I can't remember if I shared this before, but I had been struggling with imposter syndrome, and I think I mentioned this in the chat. Um, I think we have to be careful, particularly if uh, we can't always look at the criticisms of others as truth, but we also it's kind of like a balancing act. We have to look at that and see that and see if there's anything that we do need to look at. But I had to go over my past, particularly the my one tenure as a CISO, and I had really looked at it as primarily a failure. And I went back and looked at it, and I said, that what I thought was in the L column was really a big W. I mean, I built the program from the ground up. We were not cited in the 13 years I was the CISO. So I think we have to be careful about because I think as humans, at least I've been told that we can lean towards the negative. And so I think we have to be careful about our self-talk. And then, a way around that is gratitude, being grateful for waking up in the morning, being grateful for whatever family or whatever we have, and then just being grateful for the moment. Like I said, being present. And then one of the passions I have of late, and one of the reasons I'm actually here, and is for what I call generative discussions, meaning that we leave some of our past, some of our pain, some of our trauma behind as much as we can, enter into the conversation with open hands, open arms, and listen. I think if we really want to influence, we have to listen first. We have to understand what the other person is saying or doing, and then we can interact with them. And if we come to it with a good faith intention, and that's what I said, attention and intention, is if we're coming in good faith, then we're going to look for what brings us together first. What brings us, what can bring unity first? And then if we have to, maybe we sort out stuff on the fringe. But I think, and even in business, I think if we can take that tact and say, okay, gang, this is high priority, issue X. Let's just focus on that. Let's stay away from all of the the corner cases or whatever, or what we think may happen, and just attack this, and then deal with the rest of the stuff. But that's my passion, is really to engender generative discussions. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Mike,
you. Thank you.
What is
Thank
a CISO? Mike, what's a CISO? I don't know what that is, so I'm trying to listen and learn.
Oh, Chief Information Security Officer.
Mike's a cybersecurity genius. You might work out, but also he's a questioning genius as well. And apart from the things he shares with us, he asks brilliant questions all the time. I don't know anyone else who is in that class or in that league of asking the right questions. That makes you think deeply. Now, Mike, thank you so much for sharing with us, my friend. It's always good to learn from you. Generative discussions, yeah, for example, we learn from each other. So everyone that comes to speak, I have that full admiration for. I really do, because our events will be nothing without you generating your thoughts and your insights. So I'm always grateful to you. I want to go to what my sister Annie says. She says, Annie, Natalie, Paulette, and Annie, we did grow up in care, but hey, look at us now. Society said no, but that we said we will be nobody, achieve nothing, but it was so wrong. I'm proud of all of us over a year, for sure. I go to that one first because now saying I know that I'm here, but by the grace of maybe God, but also luck from surviving my mistakes. I mean that sincerely. I can give you episodes of times when I could have been arrested and locked up, but my life would be so different, Annie, right? But many of us get by because of our mistakes, we learn huge lessons, as Tobiloba said earlier, and as Mike is saying as well. You know, we really do learn from our mistakes. You know, I said we have to embrace mistakes. I think that's something that's so important. Let me show you my first video, because I don't want us to be here all day, right? My friends, if you're putting comments in the private chat, I can't look at it because I got the normal chat going on. Just say it out loud, right? It's much easier, because I just can't do the private chat in these events. I've told myself I can't do it, so I won't do it. I'm just being lazy, right? I'll look at it afterwards, but then it'll be too late, right? Okay, so now let me give, like, I guess, show a definition of mistakes and what goes wrong. So a couple of minutes, that's all, and then we can talk some more. That I want to show the 4-step process. That's Dr. Wanyama says we know how to do. We know that we should learn from our mistakes, but how do we really do that? Is what she's asking. I think that's such an important question. That's why now that's nice. I'm keen that we get there sooner or later, Dr. Wanyama, Dr. Noella. You know, so I think that's such an important thing for us to know, right? Not everyone knows how to do it. So that's the point. Now, so give me a couple of minutes to show this video, and then we'll carry on our conversation, my friends.
It's your brain's way of saying, hey, this didn't go how we expected. Something needs adjusting. Think of it like your brain using a GPS. When you're using GPS, you make a wrong turn. It doesn't scold you. The system simply recalculates. Mistakes are that recalculation moment. Your brain reorients and looks for a better route. This moment of conflict between expectation and reality creates an opportunity. If you stay open and reflective, your brain starts recalibrating, reshaping neural pathways to better align with the updated information. And that's how growth happens, not in the absence of mistakes, but through them. And this process is one of the most powerful drivers of neuroplasticity. In fact, many breakthroughs, personal or professional, come right after something didn't go as expected. But that's not always how it plays out. So if your brain is wired to learn from mistakes, why do we often repeat them? The short answer is emotions get in the way. When a mistake triggers feelings like shame, anxiety, or frustration, those emotions hijack your brain's learning system. Your amygdala kicks into high alert, and your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps you reflect and problem solve, goes offline. You shift from learning mode into survival mode. Another common block is avoidance. After a mistake, you might just want to move on and forget about it. And even though that can feel like relief in the moment, it skips the most important part of the learning process, reflection. Without that pause, your brain doesn't get a chance to extract the lesson. There's also something called a fixed mindset interference. That's a mouthful. If you believe your abilities are set, like you're either good at something or you're not, then a mistake feels like proof that you're not good enough. Your brain gets so busy protecting your self-image that it misses the learning opportunity altogether. And then there's the repeat trap. You make the same error again and again, not because you're not trying to do better, but because you haven't figured out why it keeps happening in the first place. Your brain is stuck following the same old pattern because it hasn't been given better instructions. The good news is this cycle isn't permanent. You can interrupt.
Santeria. Again, so many good things there from my perspective. Hopefully you agree. You know, Tobiloba, I love showing videos in my show. You know, it's a show as far as I'm concerned, right? You know, that's why I view my events. Look, there's many things that the lady said which I think are so true. You know, so many breakthroughs happen because of our mistakes. You know, when Tobiloba says embrace mistakes, you know, that's what he's talking about, right? Yeah. You know, Tobiloba, you know, you mentioned the audio rooms, right? I think that's such a good example to use. That's a perfect example, right? You know, again, when she talks about avoidance and ignoring the truth, not stopping to reflect, right? You know, as you were talking earlier, Tobiloba, I'm thinking to myself, LinkedIn took away audio rooms. Was it a mistake by LinkedIn? Maybe. Who knows?
It was a mistake, right?
Who knows? But they got this now. They got live stream that people pay for to join tonight to be part of, right? So to them, it's a business decision, and it makes perfect sense, right? But to us, when things happen to us, Mike, I'm well aware of you saying that the things happen for us, not to us. It makes me question myself, Tobaleba, and think, right, whose fault was this? Who's responsible, right? You and I, many people will say this LinkedIn's fault. LinkedIn shafted us. LinkedIn fooled us, and then took it away. It's their fault, right? But here's how I look at it, which is the reality for all of us when it comes to live streaming versus audio. We have to prepare for change, my friends. Those who didn't prepare to change to live streaming, they lose. Again, that's the truth, right? Now, our mistake is not preparing a second option. Our mistake was depending on things to be exactly as they are, the way they're always going to be. That's not how the world works, right? It's on us to safeguard our business, by having plan B. That's the truth. So end of the day, it's our problem, it's our fault, it's our mistake. We need to learn something from that. It's called have a plan B. When I looked yesterday and saw Natalie on Twitter Spaces, I was like, that's a plan B. I like that, because if live streams goes wrong, it's a plan B, and a plan C, and a plan D, right? Go to Instagram. Now you go to TikTok if you really have to. I said there's many other options out there that we can do audio in and do live streaming as well, right? Now we can't keep blaming others. Go on, Tobalova, please.
Is it when I was growing up, I didn't have the opportunity to live with my parents, right? And then I was living with various people, with different people. And at 2014, I was with somebody. I spent just a couple of months there. I found myself out again and went to somebody else. And then 2015 was with somebody again. I found myself out. 2016, same thing. Then that 2016, I got to somebody else's place. And I managed to stay 2 years to that one. I managed to stay 2 years completely, and I was out. I came back until 2020. And during those periods, I was blaming these people for not being caring enough, for not being loving, amazing enough to me, And it's done on me so recent, like 2021, 2022. It's done on me like, whose fault is this? Is it my fault, or my parents' fault, or other people's fault? Now I sat down, I began to think, if I had been very good-headed with these people, would they have thrown me out? When I was doing right thing, did they throw me out? Did they see the bad thing that I was doing? And do you believe that the day I choose to own the mistake to myself, I began to see differently. I began to do things differently. And I sat down and no, I'm not living with nobody again, right? I'm going to live with myself. But while I'm doing this, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to do the right thing. I want you to look at what is the next thing to do in my life. I own my mistake. Days will go without being eaten. I don't call home. I don't call my mom. I don't call my dad. I don't call any family member. Like, okay, you need to help me out. You need to do this. No. I don't do that. I began to own my mistake. And that's where the strength began to come from. So I'm coming from the standpoint when saying that, whose mistake is that? Maybe it's our mistakes. Maybe we already organize a structure, or we bring the people from LinkedIn, like, okay, this is what is going to happen. This is how we're going to promote your event. This is how we're going to promote you. Maybe we wouldn't have lose all the people we lose that were leveraging the LinkedIn audio for, right? Maybe we wouldn't have lose them. So sometimes I think we don't prepare enough for life, because you and I know that the future creates now. The future creates now. What we are doing now is as a result of what is coming in the future. I used to tell younger generations who are my age, who are the Gen Z, and the way they perceive us and everything, the perception of people about people in their 19, 20, 15. I was like, if you're already 14, 15, I don't see you as a baby anymore. You owned your mistake. You're already an adult, because You already know the right thing. There's nobody who is at that age that will be like, I don't know what I'm doing is not good. You will definitely know that what you are doing is BS, like is not good. So I think we need to learn how to know our mistake. Once we learn to own our mistakes and feel like, okay, it's nobody's fault. Do you know why the devil, the so-called devil, still continues to have this, big kingdom? In the Bible, when God came to the Garden of Eden and he was asking them, what happened? What happened? Adam, what happened that you're not nowhere where I find you again? He said, it's my wife. It's my wife that gave me apple to eat. Then the wife said, it's the devil that deceived me. They didn't know their mistake. That is why they lost the dominion that we're supposed to have in the first place. But the devil had it. He had the courage. I'm the one. So what? And that's what makes him very powerful. That's what makes him very powerful. I think that's what can make us to power. Like if we learn to know our mistakes and be like, okay, yes, it happens. Yes, I made the mistake. Let's move on. Let me do the next thing that needs to be done. Right? Are you the mind, right?
I totally agree with you. I say Dr. Noella asked what's the steps. I think the first step is to own our mistakes, take responsibility, be accountable to ourselves. If something doesn't go the way we want, it's because of something we did or didn't do, something that we thought or didn't think. So we've done something. Yeah, I'm not saying others don't do things to us. Don't get me wrong. But Tobaleba, as you're saying, almost everything that we want or expect is from us, right? It's for us to do the right thing to get what we want or expect. Don't expect the world to give you anything. Really, no, really not. The world won't. It's on us, right? Joni says, my biggest mistake was thinking that my ex-husband would just realize I'm a good person and a good mother and not inept. Sometimes, Joni, I say, as long as, the question then becomes, when you realized that was not going to happen, what you wanted was not going to happen, what you expected was not going to happen, do you react emotionally or do you react objectively? That's step number 2, Dr. Baleba. We can't afford to react to mistakes. Yes, we own them, but what we need to do is process them, learn our lesson, take our lesson, and don't do what I said. Michael mentioned, don't do carrying this luggage around with you forever. As Annie says, don't make your past define you, right? It's about learning, process, learn, move on. And I'll probably say go again. Try again and see what you've learned is the answer to that situation. So that's my way of saying let's be open to going another, to going another time, trying again. I don't like the word trying. Now do it again with what you know now, what you've learned from your mistake.
Can I
Will
step
that
in
change the
any?
situation? Go, Michael, please.
You're absolutely correct with respect to that. When we make mistakes and things go wrong, it's because as humans, we are most probably incomplete. The universe is telling us that you cannot complete it or get this task to work because you yourself are incomplete in all aspects. Not necessarily in all aspects, but in any one particular aspect, you don't have what it takes to get it done. And as you grow and get better, and as you grow and learn more, you can come back to that task, and then you'll be able to complete it. But that's exactly what you're insinuating, and that's exactly how we as human beings um, overcome our failures
Truly,
in
truly.
reality.
I mean, it's a simple process. If we stop and do so, if we reflect, take the emotions out of it, and look at it objectively, analyze the situation, and maybe we also need that curiosity to always want to learn. We always need to be that curious in wanting to be better next time. you know, I love making mistakes. You know, so, you know, I used to write, you know, documents and leave mistakes in there, sometimes deliberately, so someone could find them. You see, I know humans love to say to you, "Oh, you did that wrong. You did that wrong." You know, they love to say to you, "There's a typo." People just love doing things like that. So indulge them. I used to. You know, at least, you know, it told me a few things. One, they've actually noticed what I did. They've actually read my documents, in other words. But two, they care enough to actually say something. Right? It's all of that, you know, that it all comes together. Selena, I think you're muted. Talk to us.
I'm here.
Okay. So do you want to add to the conversation?
No, not now.
Okay. So let me go to Natalie. So I love your comment, Natalie. Natalie says, my biggest failure was in my late teens and early 20s when I didn't observe a hostile acquisition in progress because I allowed other drums to sideline me. So no chance of this ever occurring again since I experienced devastating oversight fallout and lost a great deal. Now, everyone has stories to tell. Everyone has, you know, nightmares that could haunt us. Don't rid your brain of them, my friends. Process them, learn your lesson, move on. You know, I think is it Annie? I think it's Annie. Yeah, it's Annie again. Okay. My biggest mistake was not believing in myself growing up in care, but I learned that you either sit down, let them win, or get up, fight. I got up and still fighting today. I think that's a good way of looking at it, right? That really is a good way of looking at it. You know, it's a choice we make, my friends. It's a choice we make. That's what gets us to where we are, and we must choose to do better. So in response to Dr. Nola's comment, teamwork can assist with education and soft skills development and build character and diverse skills. In a well-chosen team, the individuals will each have something unique that they bring to the project. That iterates the project deliverables. I agree with that. You know, again, if you're the boss, you know, you don't want to sit there thinking you know everything. If you think you know everything, I always say that means that you're in the wrong room. There's a saying about that, right? It's not just me. You know, I don't like to be the smartest in the room. Thankfully, I rarely am. I can always learn from everyone who's here. I can always learn from people who join my stage, people in the audience. You know, so that's why I love to meet people always, because I learn something new from everyone. Selena, I don't know who. Go, Selena.
Yeah, I was just going to say what I regretted mostly in my teenage life was getting married early. I stopped doing everything and got married when I was 21, thinking I was doing my siblings a favor because our mom had passed on when we were young. And because I married for the wrong reason, my marriage didn't last. But I didn't sit back and say, okay, I'm done. I kept on fighting. I went to a teacher's college when I was in my late 30s. And then I did quite a lot. And I didn't regret, like leaving that relationship because I just saw things happening. And in my mind, I knew I wasn't defined by being divorced. But at first, I used to say, oh, people would think I wasn't good enough. I was the one who was wrong. Why couldn't I hold a family together? But now I look back and think, okay, if I had stayed, I could have died because I was getting into depression. I was forgetting things at 26, 27. So because of that, I moved countries. I brought up two wonderful kids who have given me grandchildren. So I think, yes, I regretted it at first. I didn't want it for my kids to be called bastards or whatever. But I had to sit down with them and say, you were not to blame. So, yeah. I'm grateful.
Yeah,
I
no,
love your
we're grateful
response.
to you.
I love your response right there, Selena. And I believe that the most important thing that you did for yourself and that everybody should be doing is loving themselves. You need to love yourself first in order to come out of this mistakes that you make. Because if you don't love yourself, you just go back into the same cycle. You find
No,
yourself going back into the same cycle.
yeah,
So,
no,
loving yourself, just like Annie has said, is one of the most important things you need to be able to do.
look, Michael, I agree with you entirely. Look, Selena, thank you for sharing, and I always admire your everyone's candidness at our events because that's what we really learn from. So thank you so much for sharing with us. And, as Michael says, making the right choices for you is at the heart of learning from our mistakes. You don't make a change to please someone else. You don't make a change because you think of anyone but. In your heart of hearts is what I need to do for me.
Yeah,
Somehow,
when
sometimes
you're
that's
growing up, it's like when you are a woman and I mean, in Africa, it's like, oh, you'll be labeled a prostitute. You think, okay, how can you? It's like even going into a hotel to have a drink on your own as a woman. You'll be labeled. So
mm,
it was, all those things. But I just thought, okay, if I'm not going to take this, I'll die and leave my kids
mm,
without a mother. And because from experience, I had aunts and, my mother's sisters and my own aunts, they never took me as their child. I was the other woman's child, my sister's daughter. So it's like they never took me like I'm their own. So for
mm,
that reason, I vowed to say, how if I can just take charge of my own health, I don't want to die and leave my children, like when they're still vulnerable.
mm,
Because my mom died when we were still vulnerable. She left a 6-year-old,
mm,
and then I was only 13. So I thought, okay, if I leave my kids when they were 6 and maybe 3, 6 and 4,
mm,
I mean, how will they survive? So it was like something, okay, it was something from bad that my mom passed on, but it gave me the courage to say, yes, I will not be wasted. I remember one year when we were doing like women's event, and because my mom was so quiet, she would take anything. And from that quietness of my mom taking in everything my father would do to her, I vowed to say, I'll never, ever let men dictate my life. I'll never, ever say, okay, I'm bound by men to live a life. I thought, no, I'll live for me.
mm,
And that's what made me, like strong and
mm,
think, okay, it's not about other people. It's about you, me as a human being.
mm.
And I don't care what other people will think.
Yeah.
As long as I know my kids will survive,
Mm,
because they didn't ask to be born. It
mm,
was a choice, my own choice to bring them about. So it's a must for me. It's not a choice now. It's a must that I
mm.
must look after them. And I
Yeah.
never regretted whether I came on my own and I was sleeping, like sometimes it was mad
Mm,
working in, like these places where it was cold and warehouses. I did it, but I knew at the end of the tunnel there's a light.
yeah. I think that's an important point, Selena. Look, I think it's hard to justify living in misery. And like I said, many people live in misery. We talk about this is where we started the conversation. People know they know what to do. They know the right thing. We all know the right thing in a way, right? But people make their choices, right? And as long as you're not living in misery, as long as you're not living in your pain, you can learn and then move and then process and move on. That's how life has to work. Now, I know for sure, Selena, you, me, Mike, and Mike and Calm or the Michael, we know for sure that life is not a straight line. Even if you make another mistake when you choose to do something different, when you choose to learn your lesson, even if you make a mistake, there's still time to put it right. Now, there's still time to live the life that you want. That's the thing, right? Life is not, it's not a one shot and we're done. Let me say, I've learned that everything I thought of as a kid, everything I thought was the only way to go was not the only way to go. And I've had to change routes several times. I'm saying, let's be brave, courageous, believe in ourselves enough, love ourselves enough to take those steps, whatever those steps are, right? Let's do what we need to do to learn and move on from the mistakes that we make. Cyrus, I see you flashing your mic. I don't know. Okay, no, there's only one of you now. So no, there's two of you, Michael. There's two of you, Cyrus. I'll let you speak, Cyrus, and then Cyrus. The mic is yours. You want your presentation on stage?
Oh, yes, please.
There you go, mate.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are based. It's a pleasure to be another fantastic event by Annie Osong, the great Annie Osong. Also, I want to thank everybody who shared the beautiful thoughts and fantastic insights. So regarding where I'm sorry about the noise. Regarding where the fear of failure comes from, I just want to say it's evolutionary fear. It's one of those fears that is kind of instilled into our brains. Why is all children, universally, why is it all children are scared of the dark or really, really loud noises? Why is that? It's an evolutionary thing. It's over the years, it's become a part of us to help us protect ourselves. So throughout the history of human beings, like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of years ago, the mistakes that humans made could cost them their life. You could sleep in the wrong cave and wake up in the morning and half of your family could have been eaten by a bear or, I don't know, saber-toothed tiger or whatever they are called. So you could lose your life. So you could go to the wrong jungle and spend 24 hours or, I don't know, spend a week and come back empty-handed. Come back from foraging for food, because they used to forage for food. You could come back home with no food and everyone would be doomed to hunger and the potential death. So fear, and then as a result of that, they would get rejected by their tribe. So they would be literally cancelled, because if they banished you, you would have to live on your own until the eventual death because of hunger or a lack of support of the rest of the tribe. So you would lose your support structure as a result of your mistake. So fear of rejection is one of the main things that manifests itself in the form of fear of failure. So you feel it's out of your control. Your brain equates failure to death. So from an evolutionary standpoint. So that stops people from trying. Why do you think Wright brothers, the inventors of airplanes, why do you think they would go to the some of them called it the crash site, because they would crash 5 times a day at least. So they would take 5 of everything, 5 bumpers, 5 sets of wheels, 5 wings, 5 of everything, and because they knew they were gonna fail at least a few times a day. They finally did it. Their rivals didn't invent airplanes, even though they were appointed by the government and they had all the funding. They didn't do anything. They got nothing done. Wright brothers did it. Okay, so and So if you don't make mistakes, and sometimes people talk about mistakes as if there is other ways of learning as well. No, there isn't. You can learn about something by learning about by reading content on it or watching content about it, but you can learn it if you do it. Okay, so and you don't make mistakes. Don't be worried about the mistakes. I'm not worried about your mistakes. I'm worried about you quitting as a result of one of your mistakes. Okay, so quitting is the real danger. Failure isn't, and you haven't failed really if you don't quit. Okay, if you it depends how long it takes you to bounce back before you bounce back. So when you fail, how long does it take you to bounce back? Is it a week? Is it a day? So the more advanced your brain is, the shorter that period of time will be. So you need to work on that level of resilience, basically. And I just wanted to let you know it's okay to accept that failure is an option. Just don't choose it. Okay, failure is definitely an option. So you shouldn't choose it. That's the only thing. If I tell myself there's no weed in my garden, there's no weed in my garden, and guess what I'm going to find out when I go to the garden? There is weed there. I have to de-weed the garden, literally. Okay, not de-weeding it is my failure. Okay, not thinking that it isn't there. And I'm going to finish on a song that I wrote in summer 2024. It's called The Egyptian River, the Nile, the Egyptian River. Thanks for listening. Whisper Boy.
Help people fix it when they've messed up and wrecked it. People spend their money where they feel respected. Mistakes don't just happen, you make them, they shape you. You don't just make mistakes, they make you, they make you. You can't live in denial forever. Life is a taker, life is a giver. The Nile is more than just an Egyptian river. An Egyptian river. You won't succeed unless you crank up the dial. Show the world quitting ain't really your style. Help
Thank you
people
so much for
fix
listening.
it when they've messed up and wrecked.
The
So
original
much,
lyricist.
I tell you. You know, so no, well, why don't you send me that before today's show, so I can play that as the opening and closing music, right? Anyway, no, thank you for sharing as well, Cyrus. I think it's very important.
Love
Look,
that.
I think we need to distinguish those two things: failure and mistakes, right? Mistakes will never kill you. I'm lying. Mistakes is not failure. Mistakes is not the end. A mistake is something that we can put right. We have to put it right. You know, when the whole point of today's conversation is that we learn from our mistakes, my friends. We learn and we put it right, and then we go forward better, stronger, more resilient, more knowledgeable, more able. Yeah, and we achieve more when we look at our mistakes in that way. You know, Dr. Noella, look, I'm coming to the point, so I'm going to share my second video. Dr. Noella says, I believe we're told to learn from our mistakes, but guess what? We're not told how to do it. I'm going to show how to do it, Dr. Noella. There's simple 4 steps in the process. So you're going to need about 2.5 minutes or so, maybe 3 minutes going towards, right? We need to also focus on how to teach people to take risks and be comfortable with failure. And when not to take a particular risk by taking a step back and get advice before going forward. Now, there's been amazing shares from everyone. So now, I agree with you. Go on, Christiana.
I was going to say, another way of learning and moving forward is observing and learning others. And Michael made a point earlier when he said about having a coach, right?
Yes.
Being able to get a coach. So and also books help us to do that. When someone's made a mistake, you first of all sit in your own mistake, understand what happened. then understand, I'm going to need help. What does that help look like? And look at those who have perhaps gone on the journey and result that you are trying to achieve or you are trying to get, and find a way to communicate with them, to learn from their mistakes, to learn from how they came about overcoming, combating, and getting to their goal, right? Now, don't get me wrong, you both might have similar goals or the same goal, but the way we get there may not be the same. It's not the same journey, ultimately. So it's important that we have the right people around us to be able to teach us. And those are 4 steps to take to do that. But I will let you play your video, then I'll speak afterwards.
you're too kind. You're too kind. No, there's things you've added some things in there that we can all learn from, right? You know, the video doesn't mention like you, as you and Michael mentioned, seeking input from others, like coaches, mentors, wise people. You know, some people rely on their parents. I'm saying, you know, whoever you can turn to. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. You know, so that's why we look at others. I agree with you. Look, let me take my 3 minutes, my friends. Let's see what we can learn together on this one.
And that's exactly what the mental debugging process is designed to do. Mental debugging is a simple, structured way to pull out the lesson in any mistake before your brain starts spiraling into guilt or avoidance. It works a lot like how a developer troubleshoots broken code. Instead of just feeling bad that something went wrong, you slow down and trace what you were expecting and what actually happened and what needs to change. There are 4 steps to this process. Step 1 is, what did I expect? Every mistake starts with a prediction. You had an idea of how things were supposed to go. Maybe that was a habit that you thought would be easy to maintain, or that someone would respond to you the way you imagined. But those expectations are often built on distorted thinking, like all or none beliefs, catastrophizing, or unrealistic standards. You may not even realize that you're operating under these assumptions unless they get disrupted. This step helps surface those hidden thought habits so that you can ask, what was I expecting that wasn't actually reasonable or likely? Step 2, what actually happened? This is where you stick to the facts without interpretation, judgment, or self-blame. What did you do? What was the outcome? What was said or not said? This gives your brain clean data to work with. And when you're prone to distorted thinking, getting grounded in specifics is often what disrupts the emotional overreaction. Step 3, what belief or behavior needs recalibrating? This is where the insight happens. You look at where your expectation didn't match reality and ask, what was off in my thinking or approach? Maybe the belief was distorted, like, if I don't get this right the first time, I've failed. Or they disagreed with me, so they must not respect me. Or maybe the strategy you used just wasn't realistic, like trying to build a new habit late at night when you're mentally drained. This step is about spotting those blind spots so that your brain can update the internal rule book that it was using to make decisions. Step 4, what small shifts can I make the next time? Now that you've pinpointed the faulty belief or misaligned behavior, this is where you install the update. What would it look like to respond with more flexible or realistic mindset? And this isn't about fixing everything all at once. It's about making one small intentional change that your brain can actually practice. And this might mean rewording a self-critical thought, adjusting the timing of a routine that wasn't working for you, or trying a different way to handle something that keeps coming or tripping you up. Now, let me walk.
Now, see, that is my 4-step process, which I think works brilliantly. You know, Cyrus, look, I guess there's no more bears. There's no more bears in Manchester, Cyrus, right? You know, I think there's no more bears in the streets.
It depends which area of Manchester
no
you are
bears
at.
in London, and I think it will be young caves now. So, yeah, there's always McDonald's if you're really that hungry.
And no, I've been with a few of them on a night out in Manchester, to be honest. They were proper grizzly ones.
We're being British, my friend. We're just being British. You know, but I think that there's something about like what you say that we can learn about. We can learn it, and it is about doing it that we learn, right? You know, look, mistakes are a part of life, my friend, and those simple 4 steps can help us to truly learn what we need to learn. But I think I will say we have to have the mindset. We have to be open to, you know, one, looking at ourselves, you know, and what we do, that before we can begin to start this learning process, right? Right now, if we're not willing to look at ourselves honestly, we're not going to learn anything at all. And I think that's where this learning from your mistakes really starts, right? I guess I call this my pillars, you know. And there's also something about we need to think and learn and accept something's gone wrong. Many times people just crack on. Something goes wrong and they're like, oh, well, it's not me. And then they're wrong there. And sometimes they don't even notice and don't even ask the question what's gone wrong, because he hasn't struck us anything's gone wrong, because you know they haven't got what they wanted, what they expected. Maybe they have, right? How are you doing,
Anyway,
JJ? Go,
I
Cyrus.
believe that a lot of people get highly disappointed because they're trying to maintain a facade for the society, because
Yes.
they want to maintain a level of success. They want to be perceived as successful. They don't really want to succeed, because if your intention is to succeed, it doesn't really matter if people are looking at you or if they're not, because at any given moment, just imagine a mother. Okay, so she's worried about the health of her child. Also, one of her bills may or may not be behind, right? So that's the bill. And then on the other side, we have a child. The husband might go through a meltdown, right? Now, her car might be faulty, right? So now you can imagine a woman whose child um, could be ill, husband is going through a meltdown, the car is broken down, and there's a bill that she's thinking about. Also, there's a holiday she needs to arrange, right? So now you're on a live coverage with any old song, right? And all of a sudden you're worried, oh, how am I going to be perceived? It doesn't matter, okay? So I think it helps when it comes to failure. It helps to follow the 18, 40, 60 rule, because when we're 18, we spend majority of the time in front of the mirror just to make sure if we look the way we're supposed to. When you're 40, you don't care how you look anymore. When you're 60, you realize it never mattered. Everyone was obsessed and engrossed in their own problems and trials and tribulations. So everyone's got their own problems. So whenever you're feeling that spotlight effect and you're scared of failing, you don't need a mindset at that moment. You need a mind reset.
I tell you, that is genius, right? You know, that's genius. I'm sure, Mike. I'm sure you. I hope you'd like the analogy in the video, you know, about a computer programmer and how they look and a coder and how they look at coding errors, right? You know, because I think that's how we need to look at life, really. I love that perspective. JJ, I can't not let you speak because you're here, right? And I can't ignore you, JJ. So how are you doing?
Please do ignore him.
What do you mean?
He's trying to
ignore him.
He's sleeping. It's
Anyway,
Annie. Say
you're
hello.
lovely, JJ. Anyway, ignore your mother. Ignore your mother. She's your mother. It's all right.
So
you need to go sleep, JJ. You need to go sleep, right? You need to go sleep.
So I was going to say the one thing that we have to think about when it comes to realistic is having to think of how have we contributed? Like, how did I contribute to this situation that's happened? Even if it's somebody else's involvement, is how have we so it's looking at how have we contributed to this situation, to the problem, because sometimes when we have failure, it isn't always entirely something we've done wrong. Especially when you're doing a project and you're relying on other people. you know. But the important thing is to think, what could we have done differently? How have we contributed to the situation to begin with?
I agree.
Um,
I agree. I
I'm,
agree.
I'm gonna
I,
I'm gonna put this thing on mute because my child is
yeah,
really quiet.
thank you. It leads me to my next point, which is feedback. My friends, let's learn to embrace feedback. Let's learn to love when someone puts red ink on our paper and says, you can explain that better. I say that especially as in my word of books, right? Many of my author friends are destroyed when the editor does their job and shows them how they can improve their book. Don't be that person who reacts badly to feedback. Feedback could be many things, not just in books. It's not just what you write. It can be what you say. It can be how you do. It can be even how you think. Right? Feedback can be how people react, how people respond to you. In their actions or inaction. I say all that because some days, some clients don't want to pay, and then or they don't pay on time, and then I'm looking at myself saying, "Oh, that client is evil," and deep down I know what's gone wrong. It's not because client's evil; it's because I did not implement my payment process. That's what always happens. That's what I always learn. Always, 100% of the time, my
And can
process
I
is
share
everything. Go on, please.
something about feedback, please?
Go for it.
Hopefully people will find this beneficial and helpful in their YouTube channels or in their podcasts. So one of the mistakes that can be corrected. So the mistakes that you don't get the feedback on, you don't get a chance to correct because you don't know where you've gone wrong. That's the worst kind of mistake because people let you carry on in the darkness. Okay, so and then when you're on the wrong road, running can only get you further away from your target, right, from the finish line because you're on the wrong path. So one of the things that I've learned and it really helps is just check your um, um, average views and to find out where is it on average that throughout the course of that podcast that people have abandoned that file, that particular episode. So if it's around 4 minutes 50 seconds or something like that, as an example, that means majority of your listeners have listened to your podcast or listened to your watched your YouTube channel for 4.5 minutes. So that means that's as long as they have tolerated the content basically, and they have put up with your content really. Then they got bored and they abandoned it. So you can find out what tactics you can use, like maybe a call to action or getting or promising them that in 2-3 minutes you're going to talk about another thing as well. So they will give you feedback in a way indirectly. That's the kind of insight that's going to help you to know and to learn where is it that you have to tweak your content basically. That's really helpful. I mean, it has been helpful to me and to a lot of my clients. So hopefully it will be helpful to you as well. So always check if you have the necessary control panel, which I hope you do. Check where is it that people have given you feedback. Sometimes abandoning a file is the biggest feedback. They don't necessarily have to comment. So you have to I don't know, uh, somehow encourage them to leave feedback, and that's one of the biggest feedbacks you can get from a client or from a viewer where they abandon the file.
All right, Annie. Can I contribute now? I can't hear you, Annie.
You're on mute, Annie.
Can hear Mr. Calm talking anyway, so let's let Mr. Calm have his say.
All right. Um,
A bit
thank
louder
you
would
very
be nice.
much for that response.
Quite low.
Yeah, a
Cyrus.
bit louder would be nice.
Okay. Thank you very much for that response, Cyrus.
Perfect. Perfect.
There is some additional information I'd like to add to that, and this is with respect to programming. Mike will be particularly familiar with this, and that is the introduction of exception handlers in your failure handling capabilities. Basically, exception handler is something that when there is a problem, what it does is it takes that problem, it figures out what that problem is, and then it handles it by designating it as an exception, and then runs a separate code in the background to fix that problem so that the user is unaware of what's going on, and then and it looks like as if the code is running smoothly. But like you said before, Cyrus, there's an opportunity also that you can also get if you can run exception handler when the feedback comes from the customer or from the user saying there was a problem here, it needs to be fixed, or there's a problem there, and so you end up writing an exception handler that takes care of that problem so that later on down the road the other users do not run into the same situation. That's just my a view I'd like to just throw in there. Maybe Mike can expand on that a little bit, uh, since my coding capabilities are not absolutely great, but Mike seems to have continued his coding and he's got a lot more years experience with respect to it. But I always loved coding with that emulated life as we see it today. Thank you.
No, thank you, Michael. Mike, please, if you want to add, I saw you were muted earlier. I wonder if you want to add to the analogies or to our learning.
Well, I think I wanted to say something in regards to what Selena had said, and that is, I think often we don't necessarily think about the ramifications of our lives on others. So she had said, she was concerned, obviously, about losing her life for her children. And I think we're all much more connected than we think. So that when we are going through something and then responding to whatever that is, that's a ripple thrown in a pond that goes out and touches lives that we may or may not even be aware of. And particularly when we're on shows like this, that we don't know the ramifications of what we're saying. We don't know how we're helping people. We may never. Sometimes we learn. Sometimes we're allowed to see, the positive things that we do in others' lives. But I think it's good to remember that, as we are going through whatever these struggles are, and that's why I say, I look at the traumas and past difficulties in my life, and I believe that's made me a lot more empathetic. And so I wouldn't give up, as painful as those are, and some continue to be. I wouldn't give those up for anything because it's made me who I am today.
I appreciate that for sure, right? Say why one man does what he does is up to him. It's not that, it's up to the rest of us, right? And I say, of course, our actions do affect others. Sometimes, as Selena said, it's about helping maybe our kids learn something as well about life, right? They have options. They must learn from our mistakes, or they can learn from their own mistakes at the same time. So I do want to go to Rosemary. Welcome, Rosemary. Glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. To Positivity B is what they call her. So she's that person. She says, growing up, I felt alone. I had low self-esteem. I didn't believe that I was enough. But being in the midst of people, learning from other people, I decided to love myself more and believe in myself. Things changed for me. Our thoughts have power over us. Thinking positively will see your life, and you'll see your life bloom. I agree with that totally. It is that narrative story we tell ourselves in our head, narrative framing, as I mentioned earlier, right? Now, don't hold the negative thoughts. Now, process quick, learn quick, fail forward, as Mike says, and let's move forward, right? So Annie says, now, all this is making me very emotional because I feel each one of you for different reasons. Annie, I don't really share many sad stories of my life, so I leave them to myself and deal with them offline normally, right? So that's thanks to my amazing speakers who are here today for sure. And Natalie tells us some preparation is key. Over preparation is only needed within the specific context. The average person who's 25 and under has a still developing brain. Some people's brain takes longer to fully develop than others. Some people do not have much chance of experiencing a fully developed and fully functioning brain. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. What's the link, Mike? What's the link you've shared, Mike? Is that one of your songs? Yes, Mike?
Yeah, it's
There's
one
a,
of his songs and it's beautiful.
there's a link in the comments.
It is indeed, and it's called Clarity Within.
Okay, I'll try.
Listen
And
to
find,
it. It's fantastic.
I'll definitely listen to it.
I don't know if
after.
you can play it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Okay, I tell you what, I'm gonna go to LinkedIn and try. Dr. Yvonne, welcome, Dr. Yvonne. Natalie tells me it's Dr. Yvonne, who is our new LinkedIn user. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Yvonne, next event is tomorrow, Wednesday. We're talking about narcissism and how to regain your identity. So I love the topic she talks about. But it goes back to what you're saying just now, Mike. We have to be mindful of how we impact others, right? And we do impact others. So thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for being here. And I hope some of you, at least some of you, will join us tomorrow. And I always say, come and share the stories that you know. Don't talk about yourself necessarily. If you know someone if you got stories of people who are going through situations, then by all means, to come and share with us. Mike, I've got to your song, so my friends, I'll give you another chance, right? If you want to say anything before we go, communication is not complete without feedback. I agree. I so agree with you. That's so true, right? I said let's seek feedback. Let's embrace feedback. Let's expect someone to say something that will help us improve, as Michael said. I don't know whether it could be Cyrus. If people don't say anything about what you do, it might mean they haven't looked at it, they haven't listened to it, they don't care, right? Let's get in the habit of begging people to say something about what we do, good or bad. We can take it, right? Because we can accept our mistakes and improve. Latine, welcome. Glad you're here. So Natalie, yes, Cyrus, I understand what you're saying. Another observation about people leaving the podcast, a content file, suddenly it's life, right? I sometimes leave content suddenly because I get silent as a parent, care professional, diversely able person. Look, of course, I think it's important that we look at feedback not just as what people say to us, but as Michael has mentioned and as Cyrus has mentioned, as data is feedback, right? People's responses are feedback. People's lack of response is feedback. People's actions or inactions are feedback. There's many sources of feedback out there. Let's learn to look at them and truly appreciate them for what they are. Some we can learn from, some we can't learn from. That's part of this conversation. Not everything is important. Not everything is important to you. Not everything is a mistake on your side, right? Let's learn to see what's really important and act on those. Let me try and play Mike's song. And then, if anyone wants to have their last word, please feel free. Now, Tabaloba, go for it, my friend.
Anyways, I've learned so much today. I've learned so much from everyone, from you, Michael, any other person in the room, right? You've said something so wonderful. And to all our listeners, you are the reason why we are here, right? You're the reason why we're here. If you're not here, we won't be here. Even if we are here, it won't be as lovely as it is. Your comment makes sense to us. It's going a very long way. I would like to have you next time when we're having this show. What I'm going to leave us with is that whether we choose to talk about our failure, we're going to die. Whether we choose to take it to heaven, we are going to die. But the profound thing about this is that those stories won't be useful in heaven or hell. Is not going to be useful. It's just going to be useful here. So many people are going to need it here. So it's rather being shared while you are here. Tell us your story. Tell us what you are going through. Tell us the mistake you've made. It will help us to grow too. people that listen to it, it may save them, it will save them time. It can't save them from making other mistakes, but it will save them time from going through the same trauma you went through when you were going through some certain things in life. So tell us, let us feel like we are the only ones struggling. Everybody is struggling. Everybody is going through one thing or the other. So, right, let's learn to share our story and let's learn to own it. Thank you. I hear the mic.
Thank you so much, Abiloba. That's wisdom right there, right? Thank you so much. Christiana, I see you're back. So, do you want to say anything before we go, Christiana? Or does JJ want to say something before we go?
He's snoring his head off.
So what was that? It's his last fling. His
He's
last
not.
energy.
He's not snoring his head off. I'm like, yes, mommy wins again.
So anyway, so we're back on Thursday, right?
We are. My. I think my final word, for tonight is: failure is okay. Do not beat yourself up about it. And although we speak about it tonight from different perspectives, for some, the result of failure means that they remove themselves from this world permanently, and I've seen that happen. So before your mind gets to that point, I really want to take the time to say to whoever is listening, whoever needs to hear this, that my husband says something to me that sometimes I laugh about it, and sometimes I say to him, "Okay, drama king." He says, "It is not the end of the world. Literally, it's not the end of the world. When you get to a point of failure, please do not beat yourself up about it. Know that all of us on this planet would have gone through some failure, some mistake or another. It's really about allowing yourself to think of how can I do things differently? What did I do? Like process, we heard about the 4 steps earlier. Being realistic. Was I realistic with my expectations? Or was I being too hard on myself? And let's not forget that as humans, we are the most self-critical about ourselves. Although we like to point out other people's failures, but we are more self-critical about ourselves than we are of others. We may have ways of managing or ways of trying to hide that possibility. Think of what you failed on. What is it were you trying to achieve when the failure happens? Let that guide you, like your why should guide you to moving forward, as opposed to sitting down and overdwelling on the mistake or the failure that you've experienced. As I mentioned earlier, I think Michael touched on this point. Think about who is around you, whether strategically, or you want to think about who do I have around me? What are my resources? How can I move forward? Who has done what I'm trying to do? What was the outcome for them? And if they're successful, how did they achieve that success? Can I reach out to them? Can I ask for help? That's the other thing I'm going to say. For some who experience failure or mistakes, we seldom reach out for help as the first thought or the first instance. We beat ourselves up first. Reach out for help. Reach out for support. There is no shame in asking for help when it's needed. There is no shame in saying, something, I got it wrong. What was in my head that was on paper, the reality, there's a gap between all of that. What was in your head from a design perspective, perhaps, to what really happened, to what you penned on paper. Reach out and ask for that help, and be honest with yourself first. Be honest with others around you, because when you are completely honest with others around you, you'll get the right response, the right support, and the right information to guide you and propel you on your journey. So again, don't be afraid to be honest, and I mean completely honest, with the mistakes you've made or what you could have done differently. And once you get that help, don't sit on it for too long and procrastinate. Take action, because that's how you combat that failure, or that emotion you feel. Take action and
I agree.
ensure that the action that you are taking makes sense. Don't take action for the sake of taking action. Let your action be effective on the journey and the goal you're trying to achieve. So my overall point tonight is, do not be afraid of failure, and do not beat yourself up when it happens. Ask for help, because that's the key part of you moving forward, either by way of a book or humans themselves. A coach is another person you can get on board to help you to move forward, to actually help you be a sounding board, so that you are following through with what you have agreed with yourself and others, if others are involved in the process.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for allowing me the time.
Yeah, and I'd like to say thank you so much, everyone that's joined. Jeremy, I know you joined us late. I don't know whether you've been here for a while, but thank you for being here. If you missed most of the show, please watch the replay. If you're on my YouTube channel, I'll send you my YouTube channel anyway. Like I said, you can subscribe, right? But thank you, everyone that's joined us today. Natalie, especially in the audience, our comments moderator. Thank you so much for making our comments flow and making everyone feel heard. Thank you so much. My speakers, I can't thank you enough. You're the stars of the show. You always have been. You always will be, right? Cristiano. Look,
Thursday.
Yes.
We have a show on Thursday to do at 2 p.m. Our show is going to be.
We're going to go later.
No, we're not. Our later comes at the end of the month. So the last show of this month is going to be 7 p.m. But Thursday show is 2 p.m.
Corrected.
Right?
I'll take it.
And it's on obviously miscarriage and mental positive.
Send me the information. I can set it up. Then our friends.
You get it tonight. Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Tabalova. I must say, congratulations, my brother. Really, congratulations to you. Now you and I know some of your story. So my friends don't, but progress is progress, right? You're doing great, my brother. You're doing amazing. Well done to you, right? I had to say that before we go. Let me play Mike's.
Well done.
Excellent. Let me play Mike's.
Excellent. Yes.
No, really. It's an amazing thing he's doing. Well done to you, my friend. Where do I press play? I think I press play on your Suno page, I think, Mike. So this is Mike's song, and then I'm going to let these players out. So do go and connect with each other in the comments. Go in the comments and respond to some of the comments. I will in a couple of days. But also those my YouTube friends, thank you so much for being on YouTube. Like today's video, as always. Comment and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I'm sure you have. But thank you so much, everyone, for making my day and making my show happen. So I'll bid you goodbye, and I'll say, can I connect with everyone? And Mike, thanks for sharing your song with us. Here goes, my friends. I'll see you tomorrow on my signature room.
Bye.
And in Dr. Yvonne's
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Have a nice day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I've pressed play. Okay, it's coming.
But there's a force that lives inside, strong enough to turn the tide. From the chaos, from the doubt, find the strength to shut it out. Clarity within, clarity within. That's where the light begins. Stand in your truth, no need to pretend. Clarity within, clarity within. Let the fire start again. Years of walking through the storm, scars and victories have formed who you are beneath the noise. Trust your heart, trust your voice. All the battles that you've won prove your journey's just begun. Clarity within, clarity within. That's where the light begins. Stand in your truth, no need to pretend. Clarity within, clarity within. Looking deeper than the surface, finding something with a purpose. We're all connected at the core, brothers, sisters, something more. Spark ignites and starts to spread, light the path that lies ahead. Clarity within, clarity within. Now the light begins. Share your truth, let the healing begin. Clarity within, clarity within. Let the fire spread again. Let the fire spread again. From within the light will grow, touch the hearts of those you know. Clarity within.